Hello and welcome back to Heiser Media's Back Nine coverage of the YETTER v32.25 presented by BS Upshots. We are in Newtown, Pennsylvania today at Tyler State Park on the west course for this final round. I'm joined by Brett Hensley in the booth. Brett, how are you doing today?
Hey, thanks, Matt. Great to be here. Can't wait to see who's going to win the YETTER this year. Always a great tournament. Let's look at the scores on the back nine here. You could see Villa definitely jumped out to a large lead on our competitors on the lead card. Here we can see the top 10. Villa has a 5-stroke lead over Dylan Horst, followed by Evan Boyle on the chase card and Mike Carmen and Zach Tesone rounding out our lead card. So we'll see if any of these guys can catch Chris down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting out on hole 28 here on the back nine, we've got a 593-foot par 5. Pretty straight, out of bounds on the left, and then as you get to the green, there's out of bounds surrounding the green. So these guys are pretty much just playing for placement in the fairway. This is one of the softer par 5s here at Tyler. So really, they're just trying to put one in the fairway and go from there. Chris, looks like he's throwing his sword. And that gets a lot of progress down the fairway. He's going to like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the backhand turnover on this one. If you could turn it over through the right side, there's a bit of a gap, and then let it fade back to the left. See, it looks like Mike might be trying the same thing.
Oh, I'm doing you.
Yeah, he's trying to go down the right side. He flips it up. Similar to Chris, but unfortunately he kicks off one of the trees, but it looks like he's still in the fairway, so that shouldn't be too bad. As you mentioned, it's a pretty short for a par 5, so as long as you're in position, you should definitely have a birdie opportunity.
For sure. And Zach looking like he's throwing a sidearm. Little bit of flip up on the left side, and he's going to come back towards that right side of the fairway. Great drive. A lot of power out of Zach. He's going to be really happy with that result.
Yeah, that's a great shot there. Really the only danger I think on this hole is there's left side OB by the parking lot and stakes. And then when you get closer to the basket, the OB tightens up a little bit on the right and left side. And we see Dylan opted for the forehand. He's going to fade out a little to the right, but he should have some options over there.
Yeah, and again, on this hole, distance isn't super important. You can see Mike, he's just settling for a standstill, sidearm, position play. Chris, again, looking like a standstill here from the middle of the fairway. We'll see how he chooses to attack here.
You can see the basket right there in the center, the flag on it. It looks like he turned that over a little bit to the right. And it's luckily he threw that low enough so it didn't really push those OB stakes on the right. So he'll have an eagle look from over there.
Dylan, he got some good forward progress, but he's in a little bit of trouble. Manages to kind of pitch out to the fairway. Birdie definitely still in play from there.
You could see Zach got way down the fairway. He's looking for a little chip forehand here through the trees, hopefully to give himself a nice eagle look. Looks like he's going to opt for the right side of the green, and he's in the circle there. Looks like to be on the right side of that tree. I don't think he'll have to straddle much, so that should be a really good eagle opportunity.
And Mike, he just gets caught up. Might still have a look from there for his birdie, but definitely not the result he was hoping for. Dylan, looks like we're going to see another one of these touchy putter sidearms. I love seeing these kind of shots where people really get to display their touch, and looks like he was a little undercommitted there, but still enough to get down and get himself a look. And Chris just jams the eagle putt dead center of the chains.
The ice cream man returns. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, he's got ice cream in his veins. This is Zach's eagle look. A little obstructed, but it seems like he has a window. Yeah, and he's just not happy with that. It left it a little bit low. You hate to see those bounce out, but he knows he missed it a little bit low.
Yeah, that's one you got to have, especially with Chris carding the eagle on the first hole. See, Mike's going to have an opportunity here to make a nice 28-foot putt to start off his back nine, give himself a birdie. And Dylan will have a short putt to clean up here for his birdie as well.
Yeah, and these guys are definitely going to be disappointed. I mean, for players of the caliber that we're seeing on this card, getting a 4 does feel like a par. These guys are all playing for the 3. So they're definitely a little bit disappointed to lose a stroke there to Chris.
Oh, let's check in on our quiz question. Matt, I have a guess. I think it's up. I was going to say Tinicum, but it beat me to it. Tinicum's one of the courses that was used in Worlds back when it was held in Eastern Pennsylvania. Anyway, let's hop over to hole 29. Hopefully you guys got that one. So 573 foot par 4. As you can see, we're playing on the long tee pad to the left. Really, I think the best play here is a backhand, because you want to kind of play a straight with a little bit of fade to the left. I do see some people out for the forehand down the middle, because you can fade out to the right and still have a play to the green. Unfortunately, that's a pretty bad mistake there from Chris. He early released, early left, and we're finally going to see him maybe have to scramble on a hole and see what he can do from really far out of position.
Here's Mike. He's throwing that peach that he's been throwing, and that is great. Right past the A pin. He'll have a nice look into the green from there. Really good display of just slowing down on a mid-range and just controlling his angle for Mike.
Yeah, and that's the perfect landing zone. Just pretty straight with a little bit of fade. We'll see Zach's trying to follow suit here. Looks like he's got it down the middle. A little bit low. He makes contact with a tree. There is a shortcut on the left side that he might be able to utilize instead of playing the fairway. We'll see how far down he got and see if he does have that option.
A really good snap out of the hand from Dylan. Unfortunate kick. I mean, that was just brutal, but Dylan just showcasing his power down here with some low ceiling shots and tough break. And Chris, actually, was that a sidearm from Chris Villa?
That is a rare Chris Villa sidearm, I was about to say, and it looks like he did pretty well. He got pretty far down there. We'll see what he's got left.
And Dylan, just with another brutal kick off of this fairway. There are a lot of trees in this fairway, and they all hate you just as much as the other. Except for Chris Villa, apparently.
Yeah, it looks like he got back out onto the fairway with that great effort, but then caught a tree on his upshot to the basket. So he's going to have a very long look at par. Might have to just opt to get a bogey and move on. We can see Zach here just in a great landing zone, makes a play right to the elevated basket. He'll have about a 25-foot putt there for his birdie. Great approach.
Yeah, I believe that was his envy. Just great use of an overstable disc. Throw it on some anhyzer, get it moving forward. Mike doing the same thing, throwing his envy, getting himself into C1. Couple of great approaches from these guys.
Now, I actually did hear the Ice Cream Man bells on that.
Yeah, he was making his rounds at Tyler. I think he was looking for Chris. And, Dylan going for channeling his inner Eagle McMahon, trying to roll it off the log and into the basket. Not a bad effort.
Yeah, Chris he doesn't want anything to do with that run. He's just going to lay up there and clean up his bogey. Fortunately, it'll be the first for his round there. And great putt there from Zach, uphill 25, 28-footer, right in the heart. He's definitely happy to get a stroke there on Chris.
Yeah, this hole wasn't the hardest by any means, but it still played a quarter of a stroke over par. So these guys, like Dylan getting up and down to save his par, he's very happy with that, and Zach being able to cash in the birdie, and then hopefully Mike as well here. These guys are got to be happy with their efforts on 29.
Yeah, it's another one of those not really long par fours, all about placement on the fairway. And we saw, you know, if you're off slightly, you're probably not going to get the birdie. But see Zach and both Mike played their drives to perfection. They're rewarded there with pretty routine putts for their birdie. So good pickup there on Chris, who's going to drop a stroke.
Yeah, and you wonder, seasoned veteran like Chris, but on a challenging track like Tyler, it's been pretty smooth sailing up until this point. 9 down through the first 10 holes. You wonder what a bogey will do to the mental for Chris. We'll just have to see how he bounces back on these next couple of holes. We're moving over to hole 30. This might be the shortest par 4 that we'll play today. It goes uphill, bends to the right. No real OB to worry about, but the rough is really thick on all sides. So these guys are probably looking for like a nice placement shot to the top of the hill. Mike does a little reset before he throws. Looks like he just got a little bit of an early release, and that's going to kick down the hill and away from the basket. Not what you want to see on this hole.
Yeah, I think the better miss is right for sure. If you miss left and fade down the hill, it can get pretty bad in there. So really, you just want to, like you said, just kind of move a neutral disc down the right side, maybe let it fade back in. And that was interesting. I don't think he was intending to roll the disc like he did, but he might have something over on the left side. So it ended up not being, you know, that costly, I don't think.
No, and what we're seeing out of Dylan here, this is kind of a high risk, high reward play. It could allow you to bite off a lot of distance, but it looks like he left his shot just a little too high and got caught up early.
I'd be surprised if Chris wasn't just throwing a putter right down the gut here. He's trying to get maybe about 200 feet. Unfortunately, he makes contact with a tree on the right side. But I do think that is the better miss. As you can see, Mike, I believe, is off to the left, and he's not going to have a lot here, I don't think. Yeah, you can see he was down by the short tee pad off to the left, and now he's just trying to get in position here, trying to get up and down to save his par, and he throws a great shot down the middle, and he connects with that. Luckily, you know, he'll be able to get the par after that really unfortunate kick to the left.
Yeah, that was a really impressive display of just kind of keeping your head on straight, you know, taking your medicine, getting out to the fairway. And Tyler in particular is a really good test of your scramble game, because you will find yourself off the fairway at some point. Wow, Dylan almost rings it up for it too. But you really, you know, this is a great test of, you know, staying focused and committing to each and every shot.
Great approach there from Zach as well. Oh, rare mistake on a pretty routine shot there from Chris. He's going to have a really long putt in circle 2 for his par, and he can't connect. He hits the top of the basket. So now we've seen back-to-back bogeys from Chris, and it looks like, you know, our card has something to play for still.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm any of these 3 guys here on the card, you know, you see Chris stumble a little bit, and, you know, you want to capitalize. First of all, make sure you're executing on this hole and getting your birdie, and then try to carry any positive momentum you can into this finishing stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like now Chris's lead has gone down to only 4 strokes over Dylan. So definitely a lot of holes left to make those up. So all of the guys are really right back in it now. So let's move on. Let's check in on our leaderboard. Well, Matt, what do you see here?
Well, I see John Moldoff. He's 8 under currently on the round. He has jumped up many spots to be where he's at now. And then above him, I just see the lead card doing their thing. Chase card's kind of backed off a little bit. Yeah, this is still anybody's game here.
Yeah, so we're moving on to hole 31. As you can see, it's a really straight gap shot here. Again, you don't need to bite off a lot of distance. It really is only maybe about a 250-foot drive. You can try a monster forehand here like Zach does, trying to get way down there. Maybe even give yourself a putt. It looks like he got out to the clearing on the right side where the basket is. It's fairly uphill, so I don't think you really see this one with many eagle opportunities often. But the closer you can get, obviously, the easier it's going to be for you up and down. And I'll just say that's a fantastic shot from Dylan. Not much to say else there.
I mean, there are maybe 3 guys in the state of Pennsylvania who are putting a drive there, and I think 2 of them are on this card. So that's really, really an impressive shot out of Dylan.
You see Mike opted for the backhand. I think with the backhand, you kind of want to just throw it down the middle and not bite off quite as much as what the forehand specialists are doing. As you can see, Chris is trying that. I think that's a really good kick there to put him, into the fairway. I don't think it really would have mattered. It looked like his disc was fading back left anyway. And that's kind of the typical landing zone for your backhand shot. Looks like Mike's just kind of pitching out there around the corner from the bush for easy par. We'll see what Chris can do.
I think this is his maiden again. Another standstill backhand, and yeah, he's on the green putting for birdie. We'll see how he bounces back from those back-to-back bogeys.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big putt there from Chris. He certainly doesn't want to drop any strokes here to Zach and Dylan, who are really up here for routine shots into the green. There is out of bounds in the long grass, but you can see Zach left it well short, but well within the circle, so he should have an easy birdie.
Yeah, and Mike gets his Toro approach to check up right under the basket. Again, another good example of just, taking your medicine, playing up the fairway, and taking a par. And on this hole played almost a quarter of a stroke over par. So again, par, not exactly a bad score on this hole.
He's back. There he is, getting the bird. So big putt there from Chris, just to make sure he doesn't drop any additional strokes here on the card. The rest of the guys will have a tap in par, a couple tap in birdies. Matt, it looks like the weather's kind of moving in. I could see that flag and the clouds coming.
Yeah, we weren't exactly expecting any crazy weather, but right about now you'll see the wind start to pick up, and I believe we do actually have some thunderstorms rolling in here shortly. So we'll see how these guys, if they're prepared for that, we'll see how they handle that as it comes up.
Yeah, and you really saw Zach there wanting to take his time on that headwind putt. So good on him to be ready for the conditions changing, and great to pick up the birdies there. And to stay on pace with Chris. So we'll go back into the woods here on hole 32. It's a downhill 318-foot par 3. A lot of these guys are going to be throwing putters right down the middle, trying to land, a little short of the basket and letting their putter just kind of slide up. You don't want to push anything too deep, like an ace run, because you might end up 40 feet past the basket. As you can see, Zach does that perfectly. There's what looked like a putter right down the middle, really low, and just let it glide up to the basket.
Yeah, and what makes this hole in particular challenging is the wind. You have usually it's a tail, sometimes a tail right to left coming off of this field that we just walked out of, the green of 31, and the wind just kind of rips through here, and it can make it hard to throw a slow disc on a controlled line, which is really what you want to do. So it can actually make this touchy tee shot a little more challenging, having to deal with that wind. So these guys, they're trying to keep these shots as low as they can. They're trying to play with some touch. But you got to be careful. If you have too much touch and you're short of that tree, you really don't have a look at the basket because it's that close to the tree.
Yeah, that's a good point. The placement on this green is pretty key. So if you end up way too short, you're not going to have any look whatsoever. Then unfortunately, here's the opposite, where you kind of play it a little bit too fast and you end up on the fast side of the green. You're putting back at it. It's a safe putt, but Mike's going to be about outside the circle, probably there for his birdie. Then we can see just a pitch out to the tree, so should be able to straddle around and make that par putt.
Yeah, and Mike just coming up a little short on that birdie look. Has the tree kind of as a backstop, keeps it close for his par, but at this point in the round, he really wants to be making these.
Oh, I think Chris thought he had that one and he hit off the band. You could see he was kind of in between, maybe like a straddle putt versus his staggered stance because of the tree. But good effort nonetheless. But it looks like Zach's going to pick up another stroke and continue to put a little bit of pressure here on Chris.
Yeah, he's going to card the lone birdie on this. Not the hardest hole, but in these conditions, certainly not the easiest.
You can see the wind really picking up with the leaves coming down. Storm's definitely rolling in.
Yeah, and we're moving over to hole 33. It's a par 5, 567 feet, plays uphill, OB road along the right, and it finishes out in the open to this elevated pin. These guys are really just taking a driver or a fairway, and they just want to go straight. Want to push those cluster of trees in the middle of the fairway, and that's kind of what Zach has done here. He's done very well, probably under 300 to the pin from there.
Yeah, this one is it's a hole you definitely want to birdie, and you can certainly get there with some slower speed disc, but I'm sure all these guys have eagle in mind right now, so they're going to be throwing some higher speed discs here. And it's like Dylan didn't really get much off the ground. He did get some good forward progress though, up towards the green, up towards those guardian trees. So he should have a long look at the green. He can probably attack from there.
That's a sweet shot out of Chris. Just taking an overstable 9 speed, his long Bowman, and just using the whole fairway. That's really well done. And Mike probably going to want to throw a similar shape. He's got his trail, little hyzer flip, drift, and you can see that wind really just pushed his disc over. The wind's really been a factor and kind of playing as a bit of a wind tunnel down this fairway. So that's going to be something these guys are going to have to maneuver as they make their way up the fairway.
You can see Dylan's out, but he can still get up that hill, make good progress. The basket is elevated, so it definitely makes for a tougher putt when you're up there. Couldn't really see where that landed, but it looks like he made pretty good progress.
Yeah, Mike, I think he just went same disc. Might have got caught up a little early.
And Chris off to the left side, playing a hyzer into the green. See, he gets up there. He's going to have a long look. And you may notice those blue flags. I believe there was a beehive there that, I believe it was casual relief, right?
Yes, that is correct. So it's kind of our first time seeing it here. But yeah, there were some pretty nasty ground hornets. And you can see Mike with his eagle look. It's starting to rain, and I think he doesn't want to mess with a long comebacker, so he's just going to put it under the basket and take his birdie.
Get up there from Dylan to hit the side of the wood there. And I imagine Chris is just going to lay this up as well, and he does. I think that's a smart decision given the conditions. However, some of these guys are going to need to get aggressive on the last few holes, if they still want to catch Chris.
Yeah, Zach looks like he's running this. Kind of a tricky putt into a headwind uphill, and catches some chains, but not quite enough. And this is a pretty short putt, but he's going to want to take his time on this with the conditions. And well done. Well done for the birdie. That's a bit of a tester given the rain and the wind, and to be able to focus up, that's a very important putt for Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone else is going to be putting in a birdie here. So pretty routine. Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this whole eagle, a bunch of times even from some of these guys. I think maybe even Zach did it last year. But I think with these conditions, definitely made it harder. So let's do our final check-in here, going to the last 3 holes. Matt, you see any change?
No, Chris still leading the pack. Dylan and Zach not too far behind. Chase card is, again, kind of teetering off, but we've got guys like Curtis and John Moldoff, making their own push here.
Yeah, so let's head into the last 3 holes, beginning with hole 34. This is a pretty short par 4. There is a lot of out of bounds to contend with once you get closer to the basket, so you want to make sure that you're tee shot lands, kind of in the middle past these trees. The further down you get, the easier the approach is into the green with all the out of bounds, but you really don't need to bite off that much. You could even throw a putter, just kind of get it down the middle and go for placement. It looks like Zach opted for a little bit faster of a disc and got, pretty far down there. And Dylan unfortunately hits one of those middle trees. He's going to have a trickier approach from there.
Yeah, one minor change they made to this hole from last year is they tightened the OB a little bit down the fairway. So these guys have to really be careful letting their disc leak out to the left, and really thinking about those early releases with the rainy conditions. As you can see, Mike here probably got a little farther left than he wanted.
Couldn't see who that was coming out of there, but it was Dylan, so he's well short. He's going to have to just pitch up and take a par.
Here's Chris throwing his harp. I believe that's base plastic, and that's a big advantage that, a lot of these high-level players, they always come with some base plastic discs in their bag, so that way when it starts to rain, it's not as big a factor for them because they've got some reliable grip in these conditions.
Yeah, good point. And I think looked like Mike was trying to throw that in. He's lucky to check up, and Zach's trying to do the same thing there, getting aggressive, but he's going to go out of bounds. That should be a relatively routine putt coming back, though. Zach was kind of getting the sense that he's running out of holes and tried to give that a run.
Yeah, this is a hole, it's tight around the basket. It's definitely eagleable, and a lot of these guys have the power to get themselves a look. But in these conditions, I'm sure these guys are happy to play for a birdie.
Yeah, it's definitely one you want to get. This is the last 3 holes of Tyler West are in the Open, so they're going to have to deal with all of the conditions, all of the out of bounds. So, really anything could happen as we play these last 2 holes, but really solid there from Chris, picking up the birdie on the rest of the card. Padding his lead a little bit as we get into hole 35.
Yeah, and hole 35, like you mentioned, it's a pretty open hole. Kind of dog legs left. You've got a mandatory that you have to play around, and then you've got OB all down the right, and then as you get to the corner, OB all down the left. So really, what we're looking for is a straight shot down this tunnel here. Fades a little bit left, and Chris opting for the spike hyzer. It's a great way to control the distance. You really don't want to push OB long, so he's just putting one in play. Smart from Chris.
Yeah, I like that spike hyzer play because, like you said, it takes away more of the OB long. Whereas, if Zach pushes that a little higher, that potentially could go out of bounds. But, luckily he threw it kind of low, and hopefully he got up to where he made the corner.
Yeah, and we'll see Dylan. He's kind of following the same line as Chris, but it looks like he's actually going to be out of bounds. Played it a little bit too tight. Not sure if that was, missed his line or if it was kind of wet hands from the conditions. Honestly speaking, from experience, I missed this mandatory in the pouring rain. It was not fun to play these holes in the pouring rain, but these guys are doing a great job. As Mike puts one on that right side of the fairway, he's going to have a pretty nice look to the green from there.
Oh, and you can see Zach was trying to cut through the trees to maybe give himself a look. I think he deflected to the right. Luckily, I think he's still in bounds, but birdie's definitely out of the picture. I guess this was the drop zone, right, Matt?
Yeah, so Dylan's going to be throwing 3 here, just trying to get up and down to save his par. Checks up well short of the OB, and he's in the circle for his par.
Yeah, you can see all the long grass OB there around the green, so definitely a touchier shot with the OB. We see Mike, he's trying to maybe throw this one in. Oh, he gave it a really good bid and checks up short, so he should be able to tap that one in, but a really good effort from Mike there.
Yeah, and Chris really not showing any signs of letting off the gas. I mean, he's got a 4-stroke lead going into the last 2 holes, and Looks like he's still chasing that next birdie.
Yeah, puts himself inside the circle there, and I imagine he's going to be trying to make that putt. And Zach with a really good approach as well, getting himself well inside the circle.
Great par save from Dylan. Not making the corner off the tee. You're not guaranteed the up and down, so well done from him to save the par.
Looks like the rain let up a little bit, as did the wind. Chris unfortunately kind of bounces out there. I don't think it's really going to kind of affect him unless he has multiple OB strokes on the last hole. But Mike's at least going to pick up a stroke and get to within 5 of Chris. And I believe, I know, so Dylan got his par. Is this a par putt from Zach?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So he tried to cut the OB. Oh man, just maybe an unfortunate lapse there. So he's going to take a bogey. So that'll drop him to 10, and then Dylan will be at 11, and 4 back from Chris going into the last hole. So, Dylan's going to have to play aggressive and just kind of hope Chris makes some sort of mistake here on hole 36, a 900-foot par 5. So you can see the fairway plays kind of right to left, so you want to throw your right-hand backhand really just kind of as far as you can. This is one of the few holes where you can really open up at Tyler. OB left and right side. And then as you approach the green, the OB gets tighter and tighter. And then the basket's actually out on an island in the parking lot. So definitely, my opinion, one of the tougher birdies at Tyler. We'll see how aggressive these guys want to get, trying to trace Chris down. And hopefully, Chris is probably just trying to play this clean. You can see Mike's trying to go real big here. And unfortunately, it looks like his disc turned over and just carried really long out of bounds.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a tricky shot. I mean, it's definitely one where you can let some power into it, but just like Chris is doing here, you really want to keep that disc moving left. You throw something a little too low, a little too straight, and you don't really give your disc a chance to come back in bounds.
Looks like Dylan got some good flip up. Hopefully it's enough to keep him in bounds. He's going to be really close to the line, but I think it checked up perfectly. So he'll be in position there to, hopefully attack the green and try to card a birdie on this one. Have you heard of anyone ever eagling this position, Matt?
No, and personally, I've tried my best, and I'll let you know if I ever get it. But no, I have not heard of any eagles on this hole just yet.
Yeah, it takes a lot of power, but also a lot of precision. As you can see, Mike playing up to the thin section of the fairway. You can see how much it thins out up there, and the uphill elevation as well makes it really tricky. And then Chris just playing a really routine shot to get to the base of the thinner fairway, and then attack from there.
Yeah, and these guys all have the power to reach the green from the bottom of this hill, so there's really no reason to try to bite off any more than that. You can see Chris here. He's got what looks like a fairway in his hands. And he's just going to play a nice controlled flat shot up the hill. It's going to check up short of the green, but it'll be safe. And he should be able to just put one on the green and take his par and be today's champion. So we'll see.
Yeah, and he just played that absolutely perfectly, just needing the par, knowing that he could take the win down. And you can see Dylan not really wanting to try to attack from back there, just decides to kind of lay up to a similar position as Chris. Looks like Zach might be trying to get aggressive here, maybe.
Yeah, and it's oh, but you know what? That's actually a good roll. That is inbounds over there. So the only OB to really worry about is the pavement. So that's actually a good kick off the curb rather than just sitting there, OB. Mike here, he's going to throw his grace. Gets a little flip up. And he's on the green. So OB drive, and he's there for his par save. Great effort from Mike.
And you can see Chris here, just the easy layup. Chris is going to be your champion with a tap-in par here on 36. Really an amazingly played round, really 2 rounds out of Chris, coming back from around 4th place on lead card to take down the title on the west side.
Yeah, and really all these guys, they put together solid rounds. Tyler West, especially in some of the conditions that we saw, played pretty tough. I mean, hole 36 here, this is the hardest hole that we played all day. It played more than a stroke over par. I want to give a quick shout out to the 4 guys who did get the birdie today. That's Thomas Freer, Dustin Wolf, Tony Hoffer, and your good friend Rick Sassaman. Really impressive grabbing the 4 on this.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A birdie on this is really incredible. It's a tough hole, as you said, and Mike did a great job of saving par. Zach tapping in his par. I'm sure, after last year's performance, he's probably a little disappointed, but he put together a really great round. And there's Chris tapping in. First time Yetter championship. Can't believe it's only the first time Chris has won this tournament with the amount of victories he has and how long he's been playing at such a high level. So I'm sure he's thrilled to finally win the Yetter. And there's Brian, the tournament director, giving the payout to Chris. Sounded like he got $700 for that win. Pretty nice day of work.
Yeah, and there you have it. The conclusion of the Yetter final round. Chris Villa, he's your champion. Great day of golf out of Chris. Strong back 9, and then a strong front 9, strong finish here on the back. Let's see how the leaderboard shook out.
Yeah, Chris putting together that awesome 1033 rated round, followed by Dylan in 2nd and Mike in 3rd, rounding out the podium, and Zach finishing in 4th. So really great performance by today's lead card. Fantastic Yetter. Thanks for joining me, Matt. Had a blast.
Of course, and be sure to subscribe to Heiser Media. Be on the lookout for our coverage of the Pennsylvania states. That'll be posted next week.